Well, hello my lovelies, it's Murky Meg here. It's Friday the 31st of December. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. I've taken a little bit of time off at Christmas just because, hey, it's Christmas and everybody needs a little bit of time off on the holidays. I hope you had an amazing time, spent it with family, enjoyed yourselves. I know I did. It was very relaxing for me and I just basically sat on the sofa, ate cheese, ate chocolate and enjoyed myself. What more can a girl ask for? Today's video is slightly different. I thought we'd do an annual Royal Roundup of everything that's happened over the last year so we can refresh, reboot and get ready for a brand new year. Note though that it's been a whole year since Archwell did a podcast. That's right, a whole year without them harping on Spotify. I mean, this has to be the thing that starts off the video, doesn't it? Because everybody was talking about it at the beginning of the year. It was the Spotify video. It was hyped up to high heaven and then poof. Nothing. Spotify have allegedly paid them millions and millions. Now, if you believe that, they probably got a retainer, like an upfront fee. But if you were working with a huge company and you hadn't put any content out for a whole year, would you still expect to be paid? Would the company still pay you? Highly doubtful. I think it's kind of embarrassing, really, that they haven't done anything. And a lot of people at the start of the year said they're spreading themselves too thin. And this is a fine example of that. What is to be expected? There's been no drip feeding or anything with regards to the Spotify podcast. Have they been dropped? Have they been kicked to the curb? Who knows? I would have thought they'd have maybe done a holiday version again this year. But at this point, that podcast is a bit of a laughing stock, really, isn't it? But January 2021 started with a big bang with regards to the Harkles. And that's because the summary judgment hearing took place. Now, this was before she won, and her team, legal team, were basically asking for permission to skip the trial completely and said that they had enough evidence to not even go to trial and to make what's known as a summary judgment based on the evidence that was provided pre-trial. I fortunately, very fortunately, was able to get a front row seat and I, for 2 days, sat in and was able to virtually sit in on the summary judgment. This is where quite a lot of stuff got blown open. It's where we learnt that some of Sussex Royal staff helped Scooby and Durant with finding freedom. It's where we learnt that Sunshine Sachs also helped them on a fact-finding mission. We found out that both Scooby and Caroline had a copy of the letter that she sent to her father. We also learnt that Meghan had released the letter to try and improve her own image, and Jason Knaff helped Meghan write the letter. And a lot of people questioned, well, if it was a private letter, why on earth did staff have to help writing it? We also found out from a witness for the defence, i.e. the Mail on Sunday, that Meghan had permitted 5 friends to talk to People magazine. Of course, Meghan's lawyers dispute this and they denied that she knew her friends were going to speak to this magazine. The papers were dominated with this court case surrounding Meghan Markle and the Mail on Sunday for most of January. But something towards the end of January made everybody kind of go, oh, what? And that was Harry on his hatred of social media. Harry wanted to stop freedom of speech. Oh yes, indeed. He did an editorial with Fast Company magazine in which he said that social media is the pinpoint of everything that is wrong with the world and that it starts with mistruths on social media. Little did we know what was coming in this year and that only a few months later him and his wife would go on global stage and literally spout 17 or 18 mistruths themselves. There was also speculation on whether Camilla Harris would go on the Archwell podcast. Well, speculation is one thing, and they haven't even put anything out, like I've said. Literally nothing. 1 episode in 1 year. Well done, Harry and Meghan. At the very end of January 2021, it seems that Meghan changed her name on Archie's birth certificate, and everybody suggested this was a nod to Princess Diana. Now, granted, it did happen only a month after Archie was born, but it wasn't picked up until the end of January the next year. The names were removed, that is Rachel and Meghan, just leaving simply her title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Harry and Meghan later clapped back and said it wasn't them that requested it, but it was in fact palace officials. Did we believe it? Not one bit. Mainly because it came out of her mouthpiece's mouth, and that was Omid Scooby. She released that little ditty via him. So, It was also released in the same statement that this particular drivel, or that's me paraphrasing, was released by a carnival of so-called experts. That's right, she called royal reporters and royal experts a carnival of so-called experts. That is just the start of things to come, ladies and gentlemen. It gets a lot more dicey. Then on February the 11th, we heard that the judge ruled in Meghan Markle's side and she gets the summary judgment. So no trial. Then it is announced that the Mail on Sunday, as in Associated Newspapers, will appeal. Obviously, lots of gloating from California, a big word salad statement on winning and justice and you get the picture. Then on the 15th of February, we have the announcement that baby number 2 is on the way. Can you remember the picture of the tree of life and them sitting in their garden and lying in their garden and cozying around and I thought they wanted privacy. And then the next day, we hear that Prince Philip has gone into hospital. Now, not the first time he's been in hospital, but it started to worry the nation. In fact, it started to worry the world. And this is where the year takes a very sinister turn for the royal family. On February the 16th, it was announced that Harry and Meghan will do a sit-down interview on the March the 7th. We were told that it was going to be mainly Meghan and that Harry would be wheeled out at the very end to support her claims. Well, we didn't know that then, but we knew it after. And a lot of people kind of raised their eyebrows and said, well, when you originally left, you said that you were going to be working with grassroots journalists. Oprah is neither a journalist nor grassroots. Then in mid-February, we found out that Her Majesty the Queen had given Harry and Meghan 1 year to sort out what they want. They were given a year to basically go and see if they liked the life that they wanted in America or whether or not they wanted to come back into the royal fold. They didn't, so therefore they officially quit royal life. And we think that this was the bit that made them so angry. It was the match that lit the fuse of Oprah and what they said during Oprah. Now, because they quit royal life and Her Majesty had given them that year, this was when they were stripped of everything but their HRH titles, including Harry's military titles too. And this was what we believe upset the apple cart. Apparently Harry knew the review was coming and Harry contacted the Queen to let her know that he was stepping away from royal life officially and that he avoided the Queen and used a spokesperson instead. This is when the whole service is universal came about in their statement, and that really did make the majority of people gasp at the whole service is universal because it seemed like a massive dig at the royal family. Now, the Queen has always been gracious when it comes to releasing statements about Harry and Meghan, and there was no gushing tribute to Her Majesty in Harry's statement one bit. Bear in mind, this is all going on while Prince Philip is poorly and in hospital. March rolls around and Oprah starts releasing interview teasers, and we can all see she's hyping it up. The teasers that are released to the whole thing, were you silent or were you silenced? And Harry felt that history was going to repeat itself, you know, that whole thing that... They're sound bites, basically, but you can see just from that they are going to use their voice, and it doesn't look like it's going to be in a good way. Like I said previously, little did we know. Only a few days later, the biggest bombshell drops, and that is the Times newspaper dropped a huge story of bullying allegations against Meghan when she worked within the royal family. Aides have come forward and said they wanted their stories out before Meghan spoke to Oprah, or before at least it aired. They wanted to make sure that this victim narrative that is being led by the Oprah Winfrey interview and all the teasers was not the only story that was out there. Bear in mind, the Oprah interview has already been recorded, so you can't change it. It's there. But they just wanted to get the fact that they'd felt uncomfortable with this whole victim narrative, when in fact they claimed that nothing is further from the truth. The bullying accusations come directly from Kensington Palace staff, and staff were sick and tired of Meghan being the victim herself. Meghan left Kensington Palace staff apparently with post-traumatic stress disorder, and Kensington Palace staff wanted their story to get out and that Buckingham Palace will do an investigation. That was the announcement that was released, and then all hell broke loose because the next day the Oprah Winfrey interview aired. Now, we all know what went down. It was covered worldwide at the time. What wasn't covered worldwide at the time, and a lot of us that do what we do here, released and found out all of those little lies that came up in the story. Now, I've done many videos on this. I've done a whole video on all the lies at the particular time that we on social media found out and debunked. One of the major ones was the fact that they said that they got married 3 days before the wedding, and when in fact the Archbishop of Canterbury came out afterwards and said, no, that didn't happen. It's called a rehearsal. But as expected, it was a full-on victim narrative, and that she painted herself as the one that was being held hostage by the royal family and that she had no control over her life whatsoever. She made some pretty damaging claims in that interview, one of which she alluded to there being a royal racist, and that sent ripples throughout the world. And the whole of the world's media was then asking the question, who in the royal family was the royal racist? Effectively, what Meghan did was lay a little trap, and then the world's media just literally followed the breadcrumbs to exactly what she wanted to allude. And to this day, that's still being discussed in the media. They will never, ever, ever, the monarchy will never, ever get rid of that slander. Ever. It's there. Forever. They knew exactly what they were doing. The royal family then afterwards came under repeated fire. I mean, William was even asked by a journalist, and he spoke about Harry and said, is the royal family racist? And William then simply said, we are very much not a racist family. This was a massive assault on the royal family. Of course, Buckingham Palace released a statement saying that, I'm sorry that they feel like that, but recollections may vary. And that took a little bit of the wind out of their sails because it was the perfect thing to say. Only in her words, like nobody can. She's the biggest diplomat ever. Can the Queen literally call somebody a liar without calling them a liar? And that's essentially what she meant with recollections may vary. Eloquently put, but oh so barbed. The media went into feeding frenzy on both sides, and on the 9th of April, everything got put in its place because sadly, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, died on the 9th of April, and the UK, and as did most of the world, fell silent. A lot of people then started questioning why had Harry and Meghan put the royal family through this at this particular time, knowing that Prince Philip was in his final months, yet they still bombarded them with these accusations. The Queen went into mourning, and Prince Philip was laid to rest on the 17th of April. Harry flew over, Meghan didn't. She was allegedly heavily pregnant. She did make sure that her flowers were very prominent, and even it has been suggested that she wanted them on top of the coffin, but only the Queen's was there. A lot of people speculated whether or not she'd be there, but she wasn't. She stayed back in California. Then on the 21st of April, the Queen turned 95, and it was a real celebration of a day. Monarch being 95, it's quite an achievement. Personally, I really hope that she makes it to her Jubilee next year. I cannot wait for all the celebrations. It's going to be amazing. I think it's just what we need after the last year that the royal family have had. Then rolls around to Prince Louie's birthday. Now, all of you know that the royal family, when it's the children's birthdays, they always release at 10 o'clock in the evening, a day before the children's birthdays, they always release a beautiful photo. 18 minutes before 10 o'clock, the world is hit with a paparazzi shot of Meghan Markle holding Archie clear as day and sending him to nursery, wearing stupid shoes for a heavily pregnant person. Now, a lot of you who have followed me, or followed all of us that do this, are well aware that on any important engagement that the royal family have, always something pops up stateside with regards to Harry and Meghan to take away the limelight. It always happens every single time. It is a pattern, and this is a prime example. How can you steal the limelight from a child? I did a video and I have popped the link up in the right hand corner. It's one of my most viewed videos. If you haven't already seen it, I suggest you go and watch it. Then in May, The Bench comes out and it's hyped up to high heaven, and it is categorically slated by most publications, except it reaches the Times bestseller list, only in a very niche category. But if you're led to believe, some people suggest that you can buy your way onto that book list anyway. It's a book about the bond between father and son, and what more can you say, really? We all know what The Bench is, don't we? Also in May, Harry goes on Dax Shepard's podcast and goes on to promote his Oprah, The Me You Can See. And yet again he attacks the royal family because of his mental health, comparing the royal family to the Truman Show and saying that he wanted to break the cycle of traumatic pain from his father and his father's parents. There you go, digging directly at Charles and, by proxy, the Queen and Prince Philip. What a lovely gentleman he is. All this is going on while Prince Andrew's Jeffrey Epstein rumbles on, and mid-May is when the majority of companies that associated themselves with Prince Andrew and his patronages all quietly back off. And he goes into somewhat of an exile of silence. Also in May, the Me You Can't See is released by Apple. And I really don't know what to say about this. I watched it, unfortunately, and it's just bizarre, Harry. You know, he takes you. He's supposed to be this very private person, yet he's actually filming himself in therapy doing this weird eye rapid tapping thing, and it's cringeworthy. It really is. Then at the beginning of June, baby Sussex has arrived and all hell breaks loose over the name. They named her Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor. Now, Lilibet is a very personal and private nickname for the Queen, and it was coined when Princess Elizabeth was just a toddler and couldn't pronounce her own name properly, and her grandfather, King George V, would affectionately call her Lilibet, intimidating her own attempts to say her name. It stuck, and it was only used by close relatives. In fact, it was her nickname that was used by the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. It's a deeply personal nickname. And there was, quite rightfully so, outcrying of this very use. And in fact, Harry and Meghan said they asked the Queen, and the BBC, who had it directly from the palace, were told, no, they didn't ask, they told. Harry and Meghan didn't ask, they told the Queen that was her name. And in mid-June, the palace started to fight back, and it was announced that the Queen is fed up of all the mistruths going around and that Buckingham Palace is ready to fight back against the Sussexes. It's led to believe, or we're led to believe, that any mistruths that are put out there by the Sussexes camp will be shot down, if not true, by Buckingham Palace themselves. Then in July, it was announced that Harry is writing a memoir, and it's going to be ghostwritten by a very famous ghostwriter, and nobody really knows what's going to be in it. And still today, we don't know what's going to be in it. There were rumours that it was going to be released this Christmas, but that's been squashed. It now transpires it's going to be released at the same time as the Jubilee, and if it is, I will be shocked and appalled, but I won't be surprised. The wonderful soundbite from Harry, the man of the people, or so he likes to be known, says that I'm writing this not as a prince I was born, but the man I have become. Sorry, I seem to have brought up my breakfast there. In July, we also had the unveiling of the statue, and boy oh boy, I found this quote on Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia can be hit and miss and anybody could add to it, but under reception, it says, in his review, the critic Jonathan Jones noted its aesthetic awfulness, flat, cautious realism softened by a vague attempt to be intimate to make it a spiritless and characterless hunk of nonsense. God, it's awful, I'm sorry. That statue is flipping awful. But Harry and William were brought together finally, and you could see things were very tense indeed. everything was a bit quiet in August, apart from that awful Afghanistan response that said that they were speechless and that it was their pain and their hardship. And a lot of people said it was very insensitive, that this was their way of trying to cement themselves in being the American royal family. Also in August, new chapters of the hagiography Finding Freedom were released, and the Sussexes put out a statement that they didn't help. Well, we all know that's absolutely boo-hockey, and they did. September rolls around and it's Meghan's 40th birthday. She tries and does an incentive, 40 times 40, whatever it was. She tried to get 40 people to donate 40 minutes of their time to 40 women that needed it to get them back in the workplace. She really did try and push this, and it didn't get any traction at all. It got a little bit, but I don't think it got a lot of traction. That was what she was expecting. It kind of fizzled out quite quickly, and as with everything that they do, they try and push it and then nothing really ever gets done, does it? Needless to say, Harry was seen juggling outside the window. He got made to look like a jester while she sat there at her desk with her computer stacked up on numerous copies of The Bench. Can she not flog them? And it just flopped, really, didn't it? Also in September, that god-awful Lifetime movie Escaping the Palace came out. How this got any traction, I have no idea, because it's complete falsehoods. It was a fantasy. When 9/11 rolls around in September, Harry and Meghan list all the names of the people that died in 9/11. And people didn't like this because it was driving people to their website, which they get money for. So they were earning money off the victims' names. And a lot of the victims' families came forward and said, I did not give them my permission. I don't agree with this. And I actually side on their side. Shock horror. They shouldn't have put those names up there. Not on their website. That's where they get their money. Then, mid-September, they are announced as one of the 100 most influential Times people, and social media went wild. The memes were hilarious. For days and days and days, it kept me chuckling. That is, until I got banned. Obviously, social media went into an absolute meltdown, mocking them completely, and I think this unfortunately led to my downfall because I retweeted something that I made, and unfortunately the owner of Time magazine retweeted me and got me on everybody's radar, and unfortunately I think that was the hill I had to die on. Still haven't got my account back. Don't know whether I'll ever get my account back. And just to repeat this, I am not on social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, but I will not be on Twitter. And anybody that says I'm lurking or anything like that, no. I'd have to use a VPN, and I don't agree with using a VPN. I think if you've got anything to hide, then you shouldn't be really there in the first place. But hey, banned from Twitter for a reason. So if Twitter don't want me on there, then I won't be on there. Simples. I'm not going to sweat about it. It's their loss, not mine. Then, at the end of September, Harry and Meghan hit the streets of New York City. Woohoo! Royal tour! Also, we're led to believe a lot of people like, what are they doing this for? What's the reason? There wasn't really a reason, was there? They just wanted to start their new era of visibility, according to Omid Scooby. They did their Vax Live, they met the mayor of New York City and the governor, the amount of bling that she was wearing all over, and then people started to notice the ring. This is the ring that allegedly a Saudi prince gave to Meghan, and we don't really know where it came from or what it means. And now a lot of people are looking at it saying, blood diamond. There was also issues about them using gas-guzzling SUVs, pootling around New York City, and having Secret Service do their security. As I mentioned in a previous video, the Secret Service are paid by the taxpayer. October rolls around and it is announced that Harry and Meghan are getting into ethical banking, that they are now impact partners for a bank called Ethic. And it didn't take long before ethics were laid all to bear, really, and turns out that they held shares, a lot of shares, in quite a lot of social media companies. You know, the ones that Harry said were evil, you know? Maybe due diligence is supposed to have been done, but doesn't seem like they have. Yet more things just to get them in the media and make themselves look like they are the squeakiest of the cleans and the wokest of the wokes. So then, towards the end of October, we have the letter that Meghan wrote to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and it was all about women's maternity rights. It was done on the letterhead, the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and this was all going on while the Queen was in hospital. Then Bot Sentinel hit the scene. Now, I don't really like talking about this particular thing because I think that it's been given too much airtime at the moment, and the more you feed the crazies, the crazier they will become. So I've done a video on it. It was the report about social media. A lot of people got banned. There's been a lot of fallout, but I will say to you, just ignore him. If you ignore him, it will be much better. Then the appeal in November happened. That's right. Can you remember I said that Meghan had won the summary judgment? And I said that the Mail on Sunday was appealing? The appeal happened. And it turns out Meghan Markle lied. Shocker! The thing that we knew that she did, but she said she didn't do, she actually did. That is, that her and Harry helped finding freedom. Yes, that's right, Jason Naff confirmed in emails that were sent from Harry and Meghan themselves to Jason Naff, agreeing and giving pointers on what they would like discussed with the authors of Finding Freedom. Meghan had to then issue an apology to the court, and this is one of the greatest ever front covers the Sun has ever done, and to this day I still chuckle about it. Yes, Little Miss Forgetful. And while this was all going on, Scooby was very, very quiet on social media. I wonder why. Then the fateful Ellen show interview aired, and we saw a royal do things that we should never see a royal be doing. Well, since it's a royal knockout, and if you haven't ever seen It's a Royal Knockout, please Google it. It's hilarious, but it was also very shameful for the British people. Ellen, like only Ellen can, put Meghan through her paces with a series of pranks where she completely humiliated her. Most of us laughed. Some people applauded, but most of us laughed, but not in the way that Meghan Markle wanted. Then, towards the end of November, a book written by Christopher Anderson was released that named, or so he claims, named the royal racist, and he pointed the finger squarely at Prince Charles. How he can be privy to this conversation that was said, I do not know, but apparently it was Charles. I don't agree with that, but there you go. In rolls December, and unfortunately the Mail on Sunday has lost its appeal and Meghan wins for being a liar. No trial, nothing is overturned, but then something interesting happens. The governments start debating on the power that celebrities have to squash their privacy rights. And it may well transpire that government changes the laws that are used to protect the rich, the famous, and the very influential to their privacy, when, even if it is in the public interests, they get to silence. Now, this was discussed in Parliament, and I believe that it's still ongoing, that there are going to be certain changes within the law that state that, irrelevant of who anybody is, everybody must be on an equal footing, and that freedom of speech must be protected above privacy. Now, this well could coincide with an appeal to the Supreme Court that the Mail on Sunday is debating on whether or not to do. And I hope that they do. Because a lot of people were saying, how can she win when she lied? If she lied to the court, then it is highly possible that she lied in other areas. But without a trial, we will never know. And that is wrong, and I completely agree with that. Around this time, we also had a friend of Camilla's, whose name is Kirsty Allstop, who came to the defence of Kate about Crying Gate. Now, if you remember in the Oprah interview, Meghan actually said it wasn't Kate that cried, it was her that cried, and that she was upset that Buckingham Palace didn't tell the truth about who cried and they didn't set the record straight. Kirsty actually said, no, it didn't happen like that at all. Kirsty said that it was Kate, that she never loses her cool, but she was upset when she heard Meghan was rude to staff. So she approached Meghan, and this is exactly where the altercation took place. It wasn't over flowers, as Meghan said, it was over the treatment of staff. So again, she admitted the truth. And then, at the beginning of December, Harry again throws his father under the bus when the Times have approached him for a comment about him meeting with a Saudi billionaire. He basically threw his father under the bus like only he can. We're almost there. If you're with me so far, you've done so well. Anyway, two final things. December the 18th, Meghan is seen out and about shopping in Montecito, wearing winter clothing in warm weather for some silly reason. Because yeah, she can, and she knows she's going to get inches, doesn't she, in all of the papers. It wasn't really picked up, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't really covered majorly here. Kind of got a bit of traction, but nothing major. Then they released their Christmas card. Now, I haven't touched on this because there are two reasons, really. I don't see why they have to release a Christmas card. It's a royal thing. You know, it just seems like they've left the royal family. Why do they have to do it? Last year, we got that stupid watercolour Archie in his silly Charles playhouse. And this year, it just seems that they've used this opportunity to show Lilibet. And it seems like a really weird contrast from we're not showing you the child to, hey, look at our family. The one thing I will say is that they are beautiful children. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. However, it looks like a Ralph Lauren 90s advert. It is dated, but it also looks like they're ripping off this one from William and Kate's family. I didn't like it. It was nice to see the children. Something weird failed off, and it's too royal. They are trying to be the royal family, and this keeps cropping up over and over and over again. They release statements on things that don't really concern them. They get involved in things that don't really concern them. They take royal tours when they're not supposed to take royal tours, and they release Christmas cards when they are not part of the royal family. Now, I know many people will go, well, they're still royals, but they left. Simples. So what do you think will bring in 2022? What will happen with Harry and Meghan? Where will they go next? What will they do? What next disaster will happen? Will they release another podcast? Will they release their second annual podcast? I'm sorry. This is the funniest thing. One a year. Anybody else would have been sacked, wouldn't they? Anyway, thank you for sticking with me. It's been a long one, I know. But I thought, rather refreshingly, I've not done this before, just literally cover everything that's happened for Harry and Meghan. And I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you want me to do another one next year. That is, if I'm still around and I'm still able to do this, because there is always that threat that something may happen, that we may be silenced, but I'm still going strong. What do you think 2022 will bring for the Harkles? And what do you hope it will bring for the Harkles? As always, I would love to know your thoughts. Have a wonderful new year, and I'll see you in 2022. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and also that like button. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my followers for all the tips and all the emails, DMs that everybody sends to me. It really is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching once again.